I was super excited to talk to you because you're a capitalino just like me, Mexico City, el DF.
Ah, claro que sí, of course.
So always a delight. And not only that, but I mean, we're talking about big projects for you. I mean, November's a big month, not to mention
Yes.
today, your second project, Gentefied.
Yes.
I like to say Gentefied.
Me too.
Uh,
Gentefied.
exacto. So super excited because you get to join this hit series from Netflix.
hmm Yes, I'm really grateful to be honest to be joining this family. It was a little bit of a scary for me to come in and join it because I was such a fan of season one, and what caught my attention the most was the dynamic with which they moved. Really, that on-screen chemistry that was just coming out of the screen. And when I got notified that I got cast for season two, I was like, oh my god, I hope I can keep up with these guys. But it was amazing because they're so welcoming, they're so loving. Such a great experience.
I love your character because I think I can relate more to you because of my upbringing here. Like I said, I'm from Mexico City, but I didn't
hmm
grow up in that environment like East LA or anything close. My parents were a little more growing up in the suburbs, white community. So with your character, you have a little bit of both. You have the heart of East LA where you grew up, but then you also have the heart for the American life you had been living too.
Oh yes, absolutely. And this is why this is a character that I think hit home to me so much because it kind of exactly like what you said. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and so I was always exposed. I mean, I'm a Mexican through and through, without a doubt, but I'm also an American through and through because I've been here for over 20 years. But even before that, my ties go deeper than that with the United States because my grandparents lived out here in LA, in the East Side. And so I think to me, it was a little bit of a homecoming in all ends because I had a very peripheral view of both cultures and the needs and wants of both cultures. Understand where the Mexican side of, for instance, Pops is coming from, the way he loves or that he attempts to love, and the way he was taught to love, and at the same time, the needs and wants of the American side of it. And also, I'm in that generation where I'm kind of squeezed in between the baby boomers and the millennials and the generations that come after that. So same thing, it gives me that perspective to kind of understand both sides of the story. And so it was very gratifying because it was a character that, as you said, is very close to who I am, and I was able to just be in touch with those two sides of me.
So what was it like for you what was that moment when you got the news that you were in?
It was great. It was great because also we were in the middle of shooting Narcos, and it was a very nice change of pace. And I was very excited because, like I said, a very big fan of season one. So to get the news that I was going to be trusted with this character to come into season two, that was going to come into a little bit bridge the gap between generations and at the same time divide, which is it's a very fine line that he had to skate. I knew that it was a big responsibility that they were entrusting me with, and so it was exciting. It was exciting and incredibly grateful.
I think it was a sign because you get to work with Joaquin Gasio from also Narcos.
Yes, correct. And interestingly enough, I had never met Joaquin, even though we had been on the same project, at least for the last year and a half, because Narco stopped and go with the pandemic and all this. But we never met, and I obviously know who Joaquin is. And the first day that we met was literally like right before we started a scene, and it was kind of a very heartfelt scene and walked into set like, okay, Manuel, Joaquin, Manuel, okay, mucho gusto, action. Whew, here we go. And it was so humbling, and at the same time, so gratifying to realize, number one, be acting alongside an idol of mine, really, and second of all, to see what a genuinely nice guy he is, and what a giving artist he is as well. It's just one of the greatest experiences I've had.
And you get to work very closely with him. Which scene
Yes.
was the first scene that you guys got to shoot together?
It was the scene where he is after the whole after the whole taco truck deal, and he's washing dishes in the kitchen, and I come in and put dishes with him and start having a conversation with him. That was the very first scene we did, and that was actually the first scene I ever shot in the show. And I promise you, we met like 3 minutes before they called action. So I was hoping, I was like, oh my God, I hope I can create a connection with him that depicts the intimacy and the emotional baggage that these two characters carry. But honestly, it's Joaquin Cosio. I mean, he has chemistry with a broomstick, so it made it so much easier.
Well, it would have been perfect if it had been the scene where you're first introduced. That would have been perfect.
Yes, that would have been great. But you know what? I like that because it definitely informed me of my character, and it allowed me to get a sense of how Joaquin was building that relationship with his estranged son. And I think that was very important. I don't know if it was planned that way or not. I'm guessing it was because they're pretty sharp there and Gentefied producers and directors. But it definitely informed me, and it gave me a baseline to kind of take off from there in terms of our relationship, Joaquin and I's.
Well, that's great. And that premiered today.
Yes, it did. It premiered today. I'm so excited for people to see this because it's so different. It's very different than what season one was, because everything you loved about season one is displayed here on steroids on season two, and then some. I get the feeling that they drove it home even more. They brought it down even more down to the core of the characters, because obviously all these characters and all these wonderful actors are already very well settled within their characters, and they really use that to bring it home and give it that human umph that it carries in season two, that I think is just wonderful.
Yes, indeed. They already have that set foundation for us to take more.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's full of surprises. It's very heartfelt. If it doesn't pull any tears from you, then you got to check your heart calibration, because it's very warm this season.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I got to already watch quite a bit of it, and I'm in. I'm in.
Good. So am I.
And now let's move on with Narcos, because like I said, November's a big month. Narcos Mexico came out
Yes.
November 5th, Cinco de Noviembre. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is like a different role. Here you are, a politician and
Yeah,
a real life character.
correct. Yes, it was definitely such a change of tune because, like I said, Narcos got stuck in the middle of pandemic. So we were stop and go, and we were shooting that for, at least my end, we were shooting for about 19, 20 months. And on top of that, I was in Mexico for 3.5 months, and really, trying to be obviously responsible, staying confined and quarantined, so that, I didn't set back production any more than they should have been set back. And it was a character that it's a real life character. It's very interesting because I don't remember Carlos Hank in his politician side. I really don't. I think I was young when he was in his heyday, and towards the tail end of his career, I wasn't that young anymore. But my mind was somewhere else. I was in my early 20s. But it was interesting to play a character like him because it was difficult to in my research to find videos or find little traits of him that I could steal here and there. So I had to rely on stories that I heard from people that I knew that knew him, from a lot of reading, from a lot of articles. And I actually have an interesting story that I did actually meet him once when I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. Very briefly, I just happened to be sitting at a table where he came in to discuss something about horse racing, and I was there, and I was a kid eating an ice cream sundae, and I will never forget it because that experience I had with him was coupled with a lot of the things that I heard from people that knew him, which honestly was that he was a very nice guy. He was very attentive, a very sweet man, and a very loyal friend, which is interesting. Which is interesting because that's exactly what I remember from him when I was a kid. My interaction must have lasted 5 minutes, or who knows, maybe 2. But at 10 years old, everything seems like it lasts a month, right? But he was very attentive, as one would be with a 9-year-old, and fooling around like, I'm going to steal a little of your sundae. Do you want something else? Are you sure? Gotcha. Very nice guy. So that's the only thing I could pull from. So my job really was just simply to, and like I do in every role, really, I don't judge. I gotta take my ego and my opinions out of every role I play, and I simply have to find, and scene by scene, justify that character's actions, whatever everybody else's opinion might be, whether they're good or bad. For me, in that moment, they're all justified, and that's the way that I can find truth, especially to a character that's based on a real life individual, and just simply not justifying and give them truth, all coming out of the base that language might change, the way you dress might change, the way you move might change, but the humanity never changed. The human context never changed, and everybody justifies their actions, really, good or bad. They justify them. So that's my job, justifying, so I can bring truth to that every scene that was written.
And the introduction of you playing Carlos Hank Gonzalez, el profesor, was brilliant, wasn't it? That
yeah.
Press, and he says that un político pobre es un pobre político. That was brilliant.
Yes, it was a great execution from director point of view, and the way they wrote it and the way they developed it. It's incredibly cinematic. I think it's a very, very powerful introduction of the character that depicts the sort of central role that he was playing around this story that they brought to us in season 3, where he is his shadow is looming really throughout the whole thing, and I think it depicted and it set the stage for that.
What's one of the scenes that you found fascinating to do?
I think there were several, but I think the one that stuck to my mind the most was the one in the first episode. I think one of the very last scenes in the episode, where Amado Carrillo stops the plane, and Carlos Han comes off the plane and has a conversation with him. That to me stuck a lot because it felt very real. It felt like a real conversation between two human beings that had an objective in mind, and they each knew what they wanted from the other. And Jose Maria Jaspic is such a wonderful actor as well, that he plays off what you give him and allowed me to play off what he was giving me. So it was really two human beings just after their own objectives. And I felt that projected, and exactly how I felt in that moment is exactly what I saw on the screen. And that was very gratifying to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. And not to start wrapping up, is there something you can share that we'll be seeing you in? I think there's Deadland.
It's a Deadland. Yes, it's a wonderful film that we just finished shooting last month in Oklahoma. It's directed by Lance Larson and starring also a wonderful Colombian actor, Roberto Urbina, and another wonderful Colombian actress, Juliet Restrepo. It's a beautiful story. I'm not sure how much I can reveal about it, but it's so heartfelt. It really touches on a lot of social issues that need to be touched upon, and at the same time, it just develops this depth of character that I gotta be honest with you. When I got back home after wrapping up that, it took me about a week or so not to start randomly crying at things that I would see on a commercial, because I was so raw in my feelings of where that character took me. So Deadland is definitely one to keep your eye out for. And for Lance Larson as a director, remember that name. Oh my God, remember that name.
Will do. Definitely keeping it in my radar, coming from you.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you.
Pues muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Felicidades. Espero hablo contigo otra vez, and many more projects for you. All the positive vibes.
Muchísimas gracias y un abrazo a toda la comunidad hispanoparlante, a mis paisanos mexicanos y todos los que nos ven. Aquí estamos representando, si se puede, vamos para adelante.
Así es, muchas gracias otra vez, un gran beso, abrazo y cuídate mucho. Felicidades.
Gracias, hasta luego.